Today, let's talk about rebalancing your 401k. This question comes from Reddit. Is this a good time to rebalance a 401k portfolio? Now, there's more to that question, but I don't want to get into that part of the question. I just want to talk about rebalancing and exactly when you should do it. And is this a good time to do it? But let's start at the very beginning. Let's just talk about what rebalancing is. If you're not familiar with it, then I'm going to share a personal experience and then show you some data to help support why you should rebalance and really how you should look at your investments. So if we're just talking about rebalancing, general rebalancing is a little simpler than you might think. So you're going to have your different asset classes, such as large cap, mid cap, small cap. Maybe you have some international or bonds, whatever, however you're building your portfolio. Now, if you're looking at your 401k, these different asset classes are outlined with your position. So a lot of them will just say that such and such fund is a large cap, whether it's a growth or a value or a blend. Those are basically the three types of funds that you're going to have in there. So if we do have large cap, it's going to be broken up between growth and value, or if it's a blend fund, meaning it's both growth and value. But that is how it's going to be structured. Now, what is rebalancing? So rebalancing simply means that over time, some things are going to do well and some things are not going to do well. So what we want to do is we want to rebalance it by bringing it back to its original form. So if certain positions that you have, whether they're ETFs or mutual funds, were once 20%, but now they're really 30% of your portfolio, what you want to bring that back down to is the original 20%. So you're going to go from here to basically back to where you originally were in your portfolio. That is what rebalancing is. Now, as I just said, rebalancing is a lot simpler than a lot of people make it out to be. Now, when you're doing this, don't lose sleep over the numbers. Don't sit there for hours on end trying to figure out down to the exact penny what percent is this asset class or this fund or this ETF that you're using. Don't worry about that. You know, in the beginning, when I first started doing this, before I got into the financial planning business, I was saving into my company's 401k in a completely different industry, saving into the 401k. And I literally had no idea what was going on. At least I had the sense to save into my 401k because I was getting good advice, at least doing that. But as far as rebalancing it, it was a complete disaster. And I would spend a ridiculous amount of time trying to figure it out. The truth is, the prices of stocks and bonds move all the time. So as soon as you rebalance your portfolio, it's going to be out of whack immediately. And that's okay. That's not that big of a deal. You just want to get a general idea of where it should be. So don't worry if it ends up being 21% where you really intended it to be 20%. Don't lose sleep over that stuff. Just move on. Just get it to the best of your ability and just move on. So that is rebalancing. That's my short story. And let's talk about some charts that I want to show you the data on actually rebalancing. And it's probably going through your mind right now because of inflation, because of the market. Are we going to go into a deep recession? What's going to happen moving forward? The truth of the matter is nobody really knows. So what should you do? Now, if we take a look at some of this information here, let's go over a couple of charts really quickly. So this is a kind of an interesting one that I just pulled up this afternoon. And this is on long-term investing. And that's what really investing in your 401k is really all about. This is your retirement money. You don't want to make a lot of changes to it. You want to set the strategy up and basically just set it and forget it. Focus on work, focus on saving, and that's really the bulk of it. But if we take a look at this first chart, what we're looking at here is the S&P index of an average total returns over 3-year periods. And what we're seeing here is that of those 3-year periods, we have a total of 95 3-year periods that we're looking at. 84% of them, or 80 of the 95, 84%, have numbers of rolling periods with positive total returns. And 16%, or 15 of the 95, had negative returns. Now that chart doesn't tell you a whole lot. Here's where it gets kind of interesting. If we just scroll down to look at the 10-year rolling. So first we're looking at 3-year increments Rolling, meaning we're not just looking at 3-year periods and then the next 3-year period. A rolling means we're looking at 3 years and shifting it 1 year to look at that 3-year period, shifting it for that 3-year period. Now we're going to do the same thing with the 10-year period. And here's where it gets kind of interesting, or at least to me. So if we scroll down here, what we could see here is the 10 years, look at these numbers over here. 95% are positive. Up here, we had 84%. What this tells you is the longer that you're looking at your investments, probably not something that you didn't already hear or know about, but the longer the time frame, the better chance we have of getting positive returns. And basically what this is saying to us is, listen, save, put it into the market, set it, and forget it. That's what this is showing us. And this is making something that could be or feel super complicated, and it's making it way simpler. So that is all that chart is showing. As complicated as you might seem that it looks like, that's all that you can pull from that, is that 3-year periods, you have a less of a chance of getting positive returns versus longer time frames, even more. And we can actually one-up that to show you this chart right here, where we're looking at the probability of positive returns. In one day, you have 53.28% of getting a positive return. So not much further off than just flipping a coin. When we go all the way from 1 month, 3 month, obviously you can see that it's going up and up and up. That 10-year period, 97.36%. And we know that your working life is probably going to be longer than 10 years. So if you just build your portfolio, focus on the savings portion to it, you're going to be a lot better off. Regardless of what happens in the market, regardless of how old or young you are, regardless of how much money you have saved, none of that really matters when it comes to rebalancing your portfolio. That is just looking at it and saying, this is the portfolio I'm going to build, and we're going to stick with it through thick or thin. That is basically what you want to take a look at there. Now, this last chart that I want to talk about is also kind of interesting. And this does something a little bit different in this chart, because we look at returns on an annual basis, or a lot of people talk about annual returns, like the S&P 500. If you saw that chart before, the S&P 500 had a 10.12% average total return since 1926. I've shown that number before, or pretty close to that number before on our one of our bigger charts to show what the returns were over long periods of time. That's the S&P 500. So if you just invested in the S&P 500 since 1926, that's a 10.12% return. Pretty good. That's what you would want and expect when you're looking at it. Some people will even use 8%. Some of the videos I've used have projected 8%. But that is 10.12%. That's a real number from the S&P 500. So looking at this chart right here, what this is showing us is the low point. The orange is the intra-year decline. So throughout the course of the year, how much did it drop in any one given year, and how did it end at the end of the year? So if you take a look at this, if we look at 1980 right here, so the low point was negative 17%, but we finished the year in 1980 at positive 26%. This is kind of interesting. Look at all these positive numbers that we have here, and look what the lows are. Even in the poor years, look here, in 2002, we had a low point of negative 34%. Not that we finished the year positive, but it was negative 23%. And I think what these charts are showing us is, first, you have to put things into perspective. You know, we run on emotions when we're looking at this stuff because we hear things in the news, the media, whatever, here on YouTube or wherever you're watching this video, and we apply it to our investment portfolios because we're nervous where the market's going to go. But when we take a look at these annualized numbers, we're not even thinking about how are you feeling 3, 6, 9 months ago, because those are all in the middle of the year rather than waiting until the end of the year. And that is the point that I want to make here, that if you're rebalancing your portfolio, don't overthink it, just rebalance it, continue to save. If anything, save more if you're more nervous about the market. Because what you're thinking is, hey, the market's not going to do well. That means you're going to need more money in the future. That means you need to save a little bit more. That's really how you should train your brain to kind of handle the uncertainty. And there's going to be a lot of periods of uncertainty. And if you struggle with it, get somebody to help you with it so you don't make a mistake. It's perfectly fine to be scared of the market, but it's a completely different beast if you're actually taking actions that are going to negatively impact your future returns. So I just wanted to go through that. Hopefully this made sense when you're rebalancing your portfolio. Just go ahead and rebalance it. And by the way, there's no one model portfolio for any age group. If you look at across the different firms that even design their portfolios, you're going to see they have different allocations to the different asset classes. You have to work with something that's going to be comfortable for you, whether you're conservative or aggressive. It's perfectly fine to be conservative, perfectly fine to be aggressive. You just have to understand what you're dealing with. So hope this has helped shed some light on rebalancing your portfolio and kind of how you should handle your retirement funds, especially your 401k moving forward, even given the uncertainty that we have in the market. If you have any questions on this, let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe and we'll see you on the next one.